You break my head.
I break your head?
No, you did. You didn't break my head.
Can I have a kiss? Mwah. So since the twins are going to be due soon and I'm going to be doing a labor and delivery vlog for them, I figured why not tell my labor and delivery story for my other 2 kids that I've had so far. This video is going to be a 2-part video. I'm going to do one video for my firstborn and then a second video for my secondborn. First video is going to be for my son Colt. He was born February 26th at 1:11 p.m. With him, I was due the 24th of February, I believe. So since I was overdue, my doctor sent me to the hospital to do non-stress tests. Sent me to the hospital for non-stress tests, and there was kind of 2 parts to this test. The first one was doing the ultrasound to make sure everything was looking good and to make sure my amniotic fluid wasn't low. And then the second part was to be hooked up to monitors and to measure seeing if I was having contractions and to see how frequently the babies were moving to make sure that they weren't stressed while being overdue pretty much, or while being in the womb. And on the way there, I figured, oh, I'll just eat after my appointment. I was super hungry. I was like, well, the appointment's just gonna go by super fast, then I'll just eat after my appointment. And so I went to the hospital, and the first part was for the ultrasound for the amniotic fluid, and so they started looking at the amniotic fluid and noticed it was really low. They noticed it was uncomfortably low. They said that my amniotic fluid was really, really low and that they were going to call my doctor to see what they wanted to do. And so they walked me over to my second part of my test, which was going to be the monitors, where they hook up the monitors to my stomach to measure contractions and stuff. But my doctor had gotten back to them and had let them know, no, just send her to triage. I want her to be induced. So they didn't even have me do the second part. And so I called my husband, and he was at work, and I was like, well, this is what happened, so I'm gonna be induced, so just meet me over here. So I went over to triage, where they kind of just the first little check-in kind of section for labor and delivery. And they hooked me up to an IV and started fluids there. I can't remember what fluids they started me on. But within an hour, so my appointment was at 12:30. No, it was at 12 o'clock. And so by the time I had gotten to triage, it was maybe like 12:30 or so. And I want to say by 1 o'clock, they got me to my room for actual labor and delivery. And then they started Pitocin. From then on, I couldn't have any solid foods. I was on a liquid diet, so I could have ice chips, I could have broth, I could have like sugar-free Jello. I think that was pretty much it. And so I hadn't eaten and I was starving, but that was all I could pretty much eat. And my husband, the hospital that I go to, they have a little husband or like partner section of the kitchen. So if while the women are in labor, if the husbands get hungry and they don't want to go leave to like the cafeteria, they can help themselves to food in the fridge, and there's sandwiches and stuff in there for them, which I think is like super nice because I didn't have any snacks packed for him. So we started Pitocin, and then I had somebody tell me, I can't remember if it was one of the nurses there when I had first started getting induced, or if it was like another nurse at like another appointment. I can't remember, it's been so long. But somebody had recommended to me, as soon as you feel the slightest bit of pain, ask for an epidural, because it's gonna take a while. It might take a while for the anesthesiologist to get there. And so I was like, okay. I had them call for the anesthesiologist, and it turned out that he was about to go into a room with another woman who was having a C-section. There was only one anesthesiologist there at the time, and so it would take him about an hour before he could come back to me to give me my epidural. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank God I asked now, because I'm only in slight pain. Had I asked later down the road when I was in more pain, I don't know if I would have made it an hour. As we're going, and I'm waiting for the anesthesiologist to come, the contractions are getting worse. One of Cody's co-workers had said that there's another thing they can give you besides the epidural. That's, I think it was an oral medication. It's just like a pain med that they can give you, but it'll make her a little loopy, but it'll kind of help with the pain. And so I ended up asking for that, and they gave it to me, and it definitely made me loopy, but it definitely helped to like relax me and help me kind of hold me over until the anesthesiologist came. While we're waiting and they're checking to see how far along I'm going, I have friends kind of coming in and out. Colt's godparents came by and took pictures with me in the hospital and stuff, and then we had family kind of coming in and out, and I'm still on the Pitocin, and there was a huge room of there was like a bunch of people in my room, and I didn't mind having all those people in because it wasn't hurting too bad, but I just had all these people, and we're all like talking and laughing, like all my friends. And I just remember just like feeling my water break and just like getting really quiet. And then I was like, Cody, I like whispered over to him. I was like, Cody, I think my water just broke. Can you go get the nurse? And like, I like couldn't exactly, because he was in a chair kind of a little far away from me, so I couldn't really like whisper, so I kind of had to like say it a little out loud, and so everybody was like, oh, we'll go. so like they all were like, okay, well, we just wanted to say hi. So like this huge group of my friends like just like got up, and then they like left, and I was like, I'm sorry, but like, I mean, I can't really be sorry, I'm having a baby. And so my water broke, and then eventually the anesthesiologist came in and gave me my epidural. Anesthesiologist told me this isn't gonna hurt, or it's gonna hurt, but it's gonna feel like a bee sting. And I'm terrified of bees. I hate when people use that analogy because I'm terrified of bees. And so he's like, it's just gonna feel like a bee sting and you'll be fine. And so I was on the edge of the bed, my feet over in a pillow, and like hunched over. And I was holding Cody's hand, and I just knew I just had to breathe and relax. And the anesthesiologist was awesome. He just got it in super quick. I felt the smallest little pinch, and he got it in. He's like, okay, you're done. And I was like, oh my God, that was not as bad as I was expecting it to be, or people were kind of making it out to be. And so they got the epidural going, and after that, the pain started going away, and I was good, and I was able to fall asleep for a little while. So this is all happening the 25th of February, and like the day's going and going and going, and Colt's still taking a while to come, and I'm dilating at like at a pretty good pace, nothing too slow to where they're like worried. I think they did up my Pitocin maybe 1 or 2 times, might have been 2 times that they upped the dosage. Actually, I think it was 2 times. Yeah, they upped the dosage twice to try and get things going a little faster. And overnight, I was able to sleep a little bit. Cody was able to sleep a little bit, and I want to say around 4 a.m. is when she came. Yeah, because it was sounding like I was getting closer, and I was like, oh, come now, because I didn't want her to have to like stay there all night and all day, because I was progressing pretty slowly. The epidural was just so strong, like I couldn't feel anything from like literally here down. Just, I was completely numb. And they kept having me flip to like each side, and they'd be like, okay, turn, and I'd be like, all right, that's about as much as I can move. And so people would have to like turn me because I was so numb. And they were like, well, you're really, really numb. We don't want you to be this numb when it comes time to push, because then you might not be able to push. And talk to the doctor and see if we should turn it down or if we should turn it off completely. And I was like, okay. And mind you, the whole time that I'm in, like, kind of going through this, being induced, I think I saw my doctor maybe once. I had seen him once up to this point. So they ended up turning off my epidural altogether, which I wish they would have just turned it down. But they ended up turning it off altogether. And then around 10 o'clock on February 26th, they told me to start pushing. And so it was time to go, like it was time to get the baby out. And so they're having me push and push and push, and they're having me flip around and like rotate to like each side, and also they have like the bed like propped up like this, and I'm like facing the bed with my back to like everybody, pushing like that, and just rotating all kinds of different ways. And as I would like get up to like move and rotate, Colt would pretty much just slide back to the beginning. So if he's like coming down the birth canal like this, he would like, I would work and push for like a long time to like get him down, and then he would just kind of go back to the beginning. I ended up pushing and pushing, and probably about an hour into pushing, my epidural was completely gone. Like I had complete sense of everything, down to my toes, everything. Like I could feel everything. And so they said that if at 3 hours, if I was still pushing, that they would have me do a C-section. And I was like, great, all right, which I didn't really want to have. Like, I wanted to try and do it naturally, only because of recovering. I know C-sections are hard to recover from. I started pushing, and they had a doctor come in. It was actually another doctor. My doctor had to go in for a C-section with another woman, so I had another on-call doctor come in and help me deliver my son. And she was really, really nice. I actually liked her better than my original OB I had, only because she was a little bit more personable, I guess, than my original OB. He's very quiet, and this woman that came in and delivered, she was just really nice, super friendly. I think that was why I kind of liked her a little better. She's the one that's that's directing me to do everything, and I'm pushing. And an hour and a half in, like, I lost it. I was like, I can't push anymore. I can't do this. I'm done. Like, I'm so done. I just want a C-section. I can't push. And all the nurses, like my mom and my husband, were like, you can do this. You can do this. Like, don't give up. You're doing great. And like, they knew I just needed to break down for like a minute, because it was just, I'd been pushing for an hour and a half, and I still had another hour and a half to go before like they could do anything. They're just rotating me, and Colt keeps slipping back into the beginning like spot, and I'm getting frustrated. And so finally, towards the end, they finally get him to come down. And okay, so in my head, in movies, when they're like, oh, we see the head, it's like, oh, the baby's here, like 2 more pushes and he's here. Not in my case. They were like, I think, I want to say an hour before he was actually born. They're like, oh, we see the head. And I'm like, great. No, not in an hour. Maybe 30 minutes. Maybe 30 to 45 minutes. I was like, great, like he'll be out like in 2 more pushes, and like he still would not come out, and they couldn't figure out why he wasn't coming out. And so we're getting closer and closer to that 3-hour mark. Around that time, my original OB had started gotten done with his C-section, and so he came to check on me and was like, okay, well, we might need to prep you for a C-section, but you still have some time before we have to. They're like, we're gonna give you a couple more minutes, like 30 more minutes, and then we'll have to go take you to get a C-section. And so I was like, okay, but they could see the head. They didn't know why he wasn't coming out. And so I was able to push him down a little bit further, and the doctor could tell that he was coming out a little sideways. So instead of his head coming out from like right here, he was coming out like this. And so his head was like scraping the side of my bone, and that was what was keeping him from like coming out, was because he was coming out sideways. And so I'm pushing more, and time's going, and as we're getting closer to that 3-hour mark, probably like the last 10 minutes or so, she told me, okay, this is what I'm gonna have to do. You're gonna have to push him out almost all the way. And she's had to get her hand, push him back in. She's like, I'm gonna have to push him back in, adjust his head, and then get him back out. And so I was like, okay. And mind you, again, no epidural is being used. I'm completely feeling everything by now, and I'm exhausted. I've been pushing for 3 hours. It's been like over 24 hours since I've stepped into this hospital, and I haven't eaten. I barely slept, and so I was like, okay, let's just get this baby out. Finally, she's like, okay, let's do this. So I push, it's my last push, and I can feel him like break through and just come out, and then I feel her push him back in. I felt her push him back in and like move him, which felt terrible, and they were able to deliver him. And they immediately took him to like his little area to get checked. He had pooped as he was being delivered a little bit, so they had to, Cody wasn't able to cut the umbilical cord because they had to make sure that Colt didn't have any of it like in his mouth, and they had to get him cleaned up and make sure that he was gonna do okay. And so I don't think he was able to cut Colt's umbilical cord, and so they are checking on him, and I just started bawling because I was like, I did it, and I could hear his little baby. Oh, I'm getting emotional. Ah. Oh my god, I didn't think I was gonna cry. What the heck? And so I just started crying because I could hear his little baby cries. And my mom's like, oh my god, are you okay? Are you in pain? I was like, no, I'm just really happy right now. And so I'm like crying, and Then they were like, okay, let's deliver, you need to deliver the placenta. I knew like delivering the placenta was like a part of it, but it was really painful. Like I think it was really painful because they were having to push on my stomach to like push it down. And probably because I didn't have anything for pain and I'm feeling everything, it was really painful, them having to push it down and not actually delivering it. It was just them like having to push it and kind of work it down. That was terrible. But it happened super, super fast. And so once I was done with that, they said that I think I got up to go to the restroom really quick so that they could show me how to like clean myself up and everything. Back to bed, and they gave me Colt, and so I was holding him, and then we started skin to skin. And because I had been pushing for 3 hours like full force, my face just was so swollen. My face and my eyes were completely swollen. It looked like I was sleeping. My people kept coming in and thinking I was asleep. They're like, oh, she's asleep. And I'm like, no, but my eyes were open, but they were just so swollen. It looked like they were swollen shut. But I could see, but I guess it was really bad. I was super red. and I had burst blood vessels in both of my eyes. Finally had him at 111, and then they finally moved me into the into another room where you kind of like your recovery room afterwards, after you have a baby, and they're private rooms, and you get your own bathroom too, which is really nice. I really like that about my hospital, because I just couldn't imagine, after going through one of the most like traumatic things of your life, like having to kind of share that space with somebody else. It would be a little hard. And so we finally got up to the room, and then we were just enjoying our new baby. Then finally, a couple days later, I want to say like 3 days later, we finally got to go home. We were almost gonna go home at 2 days, but there was something, for some reason they needed us to stay an extra day, and it had to do with something with Colt. They were waiting on something. I cannot remember what they were waiting on for us to be cleared to go. Cody could only take off 7 days for his maternity leave, like, or for his like paid sick leave. And by the time we left the hospital was day 4 of his 7 days, and so he only got 3 days at home with me and Colt, to just kind of to have help. But it was one baby. I thought it was fine. Like, I was like, oh, it's only one baby, like how hard could it be? And actually he was a really good newborn. Colt was an awesome newborn. Coming home, he was really good. He breastfed like a champ. So his birth was fairly smooth. It was definitely the rougher of the two. That's all I can remember. His happened not like super long ago. It was like 3 years ago. But I can't like remember very many details. I'll probably remember more for Lennon's labor and delivery story. Which is going to be a part 2 video, and that'll be next week. So yeah, that's everything for Colt's labor and delivery story that I can remember. If I had my husband here, I'm sure I would remember more, but I'm like having the hardest time remembering Colt's labor and delivery. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks. Bye guys.
Bye.
You have to put it over this.